Hey everyone, so today I'll be reviewing one of the most compact but extremely amazing books out there. It takes like 3 to 4 hours to finish this one, and it is full of really a very practical book indeed. Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff by Dr. David Sinclair. Uh, I will be discussing the story behind the title, absolute perfectionism, life is not fair, uh, some tips and tricks that he uses, calming yourself down, not finishing other people's sentences and stuff like that. Every problem is an opportunity to get better. Some other stories, complimenting people, more stories. But essentially, this is a very good book. But he starts it with describing how he got the inspiration behind the title. In his early days, Dr. David Sinclair was writing a book when one of the publishers asked him to get no, not forward, sorry, endorsement. They have those on like the top of the books with those little quotations from like one of the famous doctors and authors in the field, Dr. Beher, I think I forgot the exact name. So, anyways, so Dr. Sinclair goes and writes a letter to Dr. Beher asking him if he can endorse the book. He doesn't get any response in a few weeks. So he assumes that he will likely not get a response and then tells the publisher the exact same thing. We will likely not be getting an endorsement from Dr. Beher. 5 months later, 5 or 6 months later, when the book gets published, he sees that on top of the book, right there, is an endorsement from Dr. Beher. The one that the publisher asked him to get approved of, which he didn't get a response of. So he basically, despite the fact that it wasn't actually endorsed, still wrote it. The publisher did that. And Dr. Sinclair got frustrated on it, and he wasn't exactly in the best mood. So he told the publisher to bring all the books off the shelves, alright, and in the same time wrote a letter apologizing to Dr. Beher. I might be mispronouncing the name, but anyhow, essentially, he only got a letter back that had two words, a few sentences. In life, I guess it said the key way to living a good life is don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. That was it. That is all it said. He didn't criticize him, he didn't become melodramatic. Even though his name had been misused, he simply just brushed it off aside. And that is something that puts things into a pretty good perspective, which is the highlight of this book, that most things that you are going to be facing in life are little things. There's no reason to make a big deal out of it. So, the first point that he makes is that absolute perfectionists are rarely at peace. All of us have this drive to strive to perfection. We want to be perfectly ready, we want everything to be perfect. But while waiting for perfection, you will likely not be at inner peace because it is very difficult to attain perfection, and quite often in life, things will come up and you won't be ready for it, or you won't be able to produce the exact near to perfect results. In those scenarios, what should you do? Well, you should simply keep this in mind that perfection won't always work. So you do what you can in that moment. You make things work with what they are instead of waiting for something. Second thing, life is not fair. Accept that reason. It was never meant to be fair. So when everyone is complaining, maybe you have the expectation that you think everything should be treated fairly and stuff like that needs to happen. It doesn't. Accept that fact. Problems will spring out of from nowhere, people will cheat you, shit like that will happen. It's life. It's not fair. That's why you work hard, to ensure that when weird stuff happens, you're able to deal with it. That's why you read books and all of these things. But again, it was never meant to be fair. Keep that in mind. Consider your own death, the third takeaway. At the deathbed, most people wish they have their priorities different during the time they lived. What is the thing that you're prioritizing lately that if you were dying, you would be like, it wasn't worth it? I noticed this question, sorry for the amazing hero I have, small stuff, that focusing too much on university or job or worrying about people. And I'm like, is that my priority? If I was going to die, I would be like, I wasted time on this stupid shit. Might have gone all in regardless of the problems. But anyhow, it might vary in your case. No, I have a lot of them. This was just the immediate one that came to the head. But most of it is small stuff. Don't be tempted, the fourth takeaway, to do an act of kindness and talk about it. You don't need someone's approval when you do something nice for others. So, be kind without getting recognition for it. No expectations from the other person. Even if they hate you, like, give someone else the credit. Enjoy that feeling of, actually, I kind of mixed it up with another thing that I look up to, but essentially, enjoy that feeling of actually helping someone without worrying about the sort of response they are to give or anything like that. Fifth takeaway, bad mood makes you feel like life has fallen apart in an hour or two. Don't be stuck in a bad temper. Pass it off as simply that, an unavoidable human condition that will pass with time. Don't take it as an indication to analyze your life. That is emotional suicide. Wait till you get better. So essentially, we all get in bad mood. It's going to happen. Problems will come, uh, according to him, when something goes wrong or throughout our lives. There are times when we are in bad moods. What you should do during that situation is not to start analyzing your life, because you will likely come up with really shitty reasons and you will justify why you're a failure, go into a spiral of anxiety and depression. Instead of that, when you're in a bad mood, just wait for it to pass. Don't use that time to take action. I know not all of us have the luxury of that. A lot of the times we are stuck and have no choice but to move on. But again, just wait for it to pass off until you're back in being a good mood. And then make the choices again, or the decisions again, and think again, do the things that you wanted to do. Sixth takeaway. I've also heard this one before. This is probably my most favorite from this book. Those that make a big deal of small problems can handle the big ones. I actually kind of rephrased this one entirely. But essentially, when you make a big deal of the small things, the small stuff, that's all you focus on. And when the actual big stuff comes up, you're not ready to deal with it. So, those that prioritize the little things are not ready for the big things. Focus on the big things. The little things will always be there, but they can't harm you. Seventh one, takeaway. Every problem is an opportunity to get better, grow stronger. Take it as a test, learn skills from it, work on your stamina, endurance, calmness, emotional control, ability to navigate problems and challenges, work on the mindset. That wasn't from the book, I wrote it, but what he said is that take every problem as a test. You will have problems throughout your life, whether or not you like it or not. Um, what you can't do is take every single problem as an opportunity, as a challenge, regardless of how difficult it is. Change your perspective about it. So when something shitty happens, think of it as an opportunity to grow stronger, to work on your ability to handle things that are difficult. Because everyone can do things when circumstances are perfect. But What actually makes you stand out and makes you successful to some extent, at least I believe, is doing your best when things are shit. And when problems come in, use that as an opportunity to train yourself. Ability to come up with solutions, ability to stay calm, not to emotionally react. Notice how you respond to it to make the best out of something. And if you develop that habit, that action, life gets pretty easy. This is the one thing I've been trying to focus on for quite a long time. It's a very good book. Now, here's another story. So, Chris was discussing. Uh, Chris. Wasn't it written by David Sinclair? Anyhow, no idea. He was discussing with his wife a business idea, and then I guess they went to present it, and during that talk, he just took all the credit. It's my idea and how he came up with it and how all the effort and everything. But later on, he goes home, he actually realizes the idea wasn't mine, it was entirely my wife's idea. So then he calls her to apologize, but she tells him, uh, I mean, during that moment, she let him hog all the glory, but she basically says, uh, my need to take credit is not as big as seeing you happy. I enjoy seeing you happy, and it doesn't matter whose idea it was. Those sort of loved ones are amazing, but essentially, you don't always have to take credit for things. Okay, and look at the important things in life. You don't always have to win. Don't need approval. Sometimes you win by not winning, or not taking the credit, by seeing your loved ones happy, or seeing someone grow stronger. Sorry, bringing out the best in someone. That smile would be nice, wouldn't it? Moving on. Begin your day by thinking of someone you love. That's a very interesting perspective. Usually, when we wake up, we're like, oh, I have all of these problems and things are shitty and all of that. Imagine someone you love. Doesn't that automatically give you strength and makes you want to do your best as the day goes on? I certainly think it does. It keeps you positive, maybe gives an element of gratitude as well, where you're thankful. And that emotion makes up for everything else, surprisingly. All the negativity, everything goes away. Because if it is truly someone you love and you want to protect them, they bring out the best in you and all of those things, then starting your day with that thought is probably the best thing you can do. Moving on. Oh, another story about clerk dealing. I think I read this in some other book, but I just noted this down. So there was this story when like a clerk was dealing with like a very angry customer who was really rude at him. Um, but he just patiently just talked him out, and then the rude customer went away. So the guy goes to him and asks him, "How did you handle that situation so perfectly?" And he tells him, "Weren't you angry at the person?" So the clerk responds, "He might just be having a bad day." That level of perspective is very admirable. That level of perception into humans and level of understanding and compassion and all of those things also makes life really easy. But it is entirely possible. The guy might be an idiot, or he might be having a bad day. Either way, it helps you deal with them properly at least. Emotional reactions don't always bring out the best in you. The author talks about how while driving there was a guy who was driving rashly and was trying to take all the turns and putting lives at risk or whatever. And he, on the other hand, the author, was just listening to a book that he enjoyed, and they both got to the location at approximately the same time. Except that the other guy went through a lot of stress, but it didn't really change anything. The destination, almost the same thing, so why would you want to be like that? Just rest. There's no rush. Life is not an emergency. You're not limited by anything. If you look at the good qualities in your, this is the last takeaway, probably the most important ones. I'll just give the example. If you look for the good qualities in your spouse, she will be more loving. If you look at the good points in your job, you will enjoy it more, and because of that, likely get a raise and a promotion, which you otherwise are not. If you enjoy being near home instead of dreaming being in Hawaii, then you will enjoy the time you spend in your home. A lot of us have these really high and great expectations, which are good. It's not to say that you should stop setting higher targets. But if you start being completely dissatisfied with with your surroundings, it only puts you in a bad mood. Sometimes, if you just approach things instead of getting stuck with confirmation bias where you only see the negative side of something, you consider the positive side. That will bring out the positive in you as well and make life more easier. Keep that in mind. A very, very interesting approach that can be applied to anything. You're not weak. Look at all the times you were strong. The situation you're in might not be that bad. Look at the good points so you can perform even better. And those were some of the key takeaways from the book Don't Sweat the Small Stuff that I really loved.